Hey, hello, everybody. It is an absolutely spectacular day here in Greenwich, Connecticut. I am very excited and lucky to have Amy Polacko, former of Freedom Warrior Coaches, on the show. We are going to be discussing, well, the big news this past week, Kiss Cam Coldplay and the CEO that has now stepped down. So welcome to the show, Amy.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here to talk about Coldplay Gate, as some people are calling it, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of break it down here because it has become such a big deal. It became viral almost instantly, right? It started, I think it was Tuesday night. By Wednesday morning, it was everywhere. So why did this resonate with people the way it did?
I really think, Trevor, that it has resonated because it has triggered many people, and I'm one of them. I'm going to raise my hand here who have experienced a betrayal like that. And I
Mm,
think that not everyone, and I hate to use this word, is lucky enough to have a jumbotron moment as proof. So I think people feel this sense of validation in many ways. And a lot of the sharing that's going on right now is cathartic. It's therapy.
mm.
You would know as a therapist.
Yes. It is a little cathartic. And there is a part of me that's like, is this schadenfreude? Is this shaming? And then there's another part of me that's like, these are two highly intelligent, well trained people who are high up in their careers and their capabilities. Why would you go do that? Go be in very high end seats. Obviously, the guy is the CEO, but be together. She's head of HR, a people person, literally. And they do this in a public way. Like, what were they thinking?
I think that's one of the shocking parts about it, right? Is that when you think of cheating, you think of some clandestine meeting spot, you think of a hotel. I mean, as a divorce coach, I coach clients who I would say 90% of them have experienced infidelity. And the stories I have heard, as I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine, of how their partners have been caught, this didn't rank up there as one of them.
This has got to be, and my heart goes out to the families of both of those people, especially children, to discover your parent is, and I don't know about, I think her name is Lisa Cabot, not sure 100% last name Cabot, but Andy Byram definitely has kids who are
Yep,
plenty
Chris.
old enough to understand what this is.
Absolutely. And I think that those of us who are, watching this, it's not that we're taking, you know, satisfaction and glee in seeing this happen. It's that if you've lived through this, you know the devastation it's going to cause the children, the family. This is a deep, deep wound. We're talking about betrayal trauma, right? And a lot of people don't understand it, that it's not just, oh, you shake it off. Okay, you were cheated on, whether it's a dating relationship or a marriage. This really shakes the foundation of your existence. It makes you look at other people in a different way. You wonder who you can trust. And the statistics and studies show this. Many people who experience this are even diagnosed with PTSD later.
Yes,
This is not
absolutely.
just a, shake it off event for anyone, including, of course, the children.
Mm. No, and I think that's a really important part of this because the partners that I speak to who have experienced betrayal, it's literally PTSD. It comes back in waves. It brings them to their knees, and they've developed this hyper vigilant self that they didn't have before, wanting checking phones, seeing everything. It's literally a shift in your identity and behaviors. And that's why, to your point, it shakes your very core, your existence, your identity. Everything starts to look like, how did I believe in me, myself, this family? It's a brutal experience. And the families of these two people just had it happen in the most public way ever possible. And now we have the internet. So it's now even a whole nother level.
Right. And I think people who maybe have not experienced this may say, okay, well, move on with your life. And look, we hope that everyone involved moves on to have a healthy, happy life. But it's not that simple. I mean, to trust someone again, you carry this into your next relationship. There's so much healing work as a family that has to be done. And so I think that, all of that is going on. And back to what you said at the beginning, I think that for a lot of women, Trevor, especially, and some men too, I have had male clients, I just want to say,
Hmm.
men and women both cheat, we know, but it's a gut feeling you have or an intuition, and maybe you don't have that evidence on a phone or an email or that gotcha cam somewhere, but you know something is off. And I think many people wish they had had that. It would have made things easier because if you have a partner who's denying it, they're gaslighting you. Often you're too sensitive. That's just a friend.
Hmm.
Why do
Hmm.
you think this way? I'm just at a work meeting.
Terrible. And I don't know if most people out there, the word gaslighting has become sort of integral to our lexicon at this point. But gaslighting really is your partner is messing with your reality. I think it is one of the most evil things that can happen between two people because you're denying the other person the information they need to make proper decisions for themselves. And it twists you up because you're like, wait, what's real? And it is such a terrible thing to do to one another. And it happens far more than, well, you and I see it. I mean, I think there are some, of course, healthy relationships. But the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is betrayal. And you and I both know this comes in all different flavors, sizes. Uh, tell me a couple other ways people betray each other. And again, gaslighting happens in this other stuff too. So let's talk about some other ways people betray one another.
I mean, we're both here in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Not that this doesn't happen other places, but I have clients across the country, but many here in our area. There's a lot of financial abuse. There's a lot of financial betrayal, and that can be, some one partner who is the moneyed spouse has the other sign tax returns, and they don't even know what the heck is in there. They move money around, especially when a divorce is starting. They
Mm-hmm.
take out loans and empty out 401ks and investments and move things around without the other partner knowing. And I think that is a huge, huge sense of betrayal. Also, sometimes in second marriages, spouses can be too cozy with the first ex and lie to their new partner about what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, whether it's financial support or still emotional ties, or even possibly having an affair with them. So I
Oh
think
my goodness.
Right. So, I mean, I think we see a lot of things like that, and there can be emotional affairs that are not
Hmm.
physical, of course, right?
That can be just as devastating. Those emotional affairs where no physical action actually occurred can be just as painful and really, again, mess with your reality. And do you really love me? Can I love myself anymore? Am I a lovable person? Because I don't even know who you are. I've been together with you for 25 or 30 years sometimes or more. So yeah, betrayal is something that is endemic and it's part of the human experience. And I hate to say it, it's something that you don't, as you're saying, just shake off. And it takes a long time, a long period of healing. You need your people around you to validate you and say, yes, this is going to be a very painful process. And you're going to have to mourn the loss of what you thought your marriage was. Right. So if you know about Kubler-Ross, the 5 stages of mourning, betrayal, depression, bargaining, acceptance, and I don't know, I'm not remembering the last one. Gosh, I should know all this, but it's an incredibly tough period, and my heart goes out to these families of these two people, and as much as we all kind of laughed and when we saw those two people on that kiss cam kind of go, oh my goodness, and turn and the guy dropped to his knees. I mean, it looked sort of funny, but the the reality of it is incredibly deep and painful.
Absolutely. And I think, I see in my divorce coaching practice women and men at every stage of that, like the bargaining, the negotiating. Is it that bad? Should I just stay? I'm scared. We don't know what will happen in these marriages. A lot of couples do try to overcome infidelity. Some are able to, some are not. So, we can't say that they're headed for divorce, even though people are speculating on his fortune and
Mm.
what she'll get in Massachusetts and all these things. But it is a long, long process. And you hit the nail on the head. I often say to clients, I don't think you're grieving him or her. You're not still madly in love with them. What you're grieving is the loss of what you thought your life was going to be, the family unit. I know I
Mm-hmm.
myself, it was the Norman Rockwell, view
Yeah.
of a family life that we all are taught and conditioned to want. So I think that's really the grieving process, the fear of, oh, what is it going to be like to be alone? I don't want to die alone. I'm going to be alone my whole life.
Mm,
All of
mm.
those things can force or influence people, I should say, to stay even when they really deep down want to leave.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest decisions ever. And and I do work with couples. I do work with couples that get through this, rebuild trust, have a deeper, better connection. They understand how they got to that place. And we work through a lot of stuff, but it takes a lot of time and two people with a great deal of loving intention. And whoever did the betrayal really takes responsibility. Like, I hurt you. I am sorry. And a proper apology, I think most people don't understand this. You have to have the felt sense that that person who hurt you really feels it and understands how hurt you are. And then they say, to the best of everything in my soul, is I will promise to never let that happen again. So
Right. And I
great.
think they also have to be extremely patient, right, Trevor, is because
Yes.
oftentimes the victim is still healing, and
Yes.
the betrayer can sometimes say, hey, aren't you over it now? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
But and it's,
Exactly.
there's no time frame on this process. It takes some people longer than others. Some people are
Mhm.
simply not able to overcome it.
Absolutely. And that is something I point out to my clients all the time, which is one of you is at a different place. One is already like processed. They had the affair. Maybe they're done with the emotional experience or whatever, and they're done. And they look at their spouse who just got all this information and are in incredible, incredible pain. And they're like, why can't you move forward? So I work with people about that too, because they're two different processing speeds. One's way ahead of the other. And I have seen couples do come to a place where they're like, you know what, I really do love you. I really do want to rebuild. We have 30 years, we have family, we have so much we've built. Let's find a way back to each other. But to your point, you have to be incredibly patient. And here's the paradox, right? The person that hurt you the most ever is the person you need to go to heal and soothe. So those two things are at complete odds with one another. And that's where the work gets really very, very tough. But I've seen people do it.
But I think that's what makes this betrayal trauma so devastating, right? Is that the very person who was supposed to have your back is the one who stabbed you in the back, right? And so I think that's what is so destabilizing about it for so many people.
Yes, yes. So your side of it is you do the divorce coaching. People who come to me are usually trying to figure a way back together. I I do, I do have clients who do end up leaving one another, and that's a different story. But it's important that if you do experience this and you are wondering, can I put it back together? You could call somebody like me. I'm at trevorcrow.com, but you can call Amy Polacko. So Amy, where do people find you for
Right,
divorce
before I
coaching?
say where they can find me, I have to say, and I've sent people to you too, right? Like if
That's true.
someone wants to work on their marriage, sometimes I have somebody start with me and then they're like, you know what, we're going to go back to therapy. Great. I
Yeah.
hope you don't want to get divorced, but my experience is that the situation usually, I have a lot of domestic abuse, coercive control
Mm,
victims,
mm,
that the situation gets worse instead of better. But people can find me at freedomwarrior.info. It's Freedom Warrior Coaching. I do 15-minute free consultations. I have a proactive playbook for divorce you can get. There are resources on my website. I have a full digital course, Divorce Decoded, which walks people through the process. And I put everything in there I wish I had known. Trevor, that I also write as a journalist about some of these issues for HuffPost, Ms.
mm, mm.
Um, I had a piece in the New York Daily News a couple weeks ago on the Diddy trial and how coercive control wasn't recognized. And I co-authored
Horrible.
this book with
Yes.
Dr. Christine Cocciola, who's a coercive control expert. These are 22 stories of real women who have gone through the family court system and many of these situations. So, we say it's not a beach read, but it is a must read for all women
I
and
love
men
that.
too. Yeah.
Not a beach read, a must read. So this is incredibly important subject matter. There's more happening at the state level around coercive control. There's legislation coming up. I need to get myself up on it. But Amy and Christine Cochillo, who she just mentioned, are two experts that if you're concerned and you're thinking that you're experiencing these kinds of things, we're talking about gaslighting, about betrayal, financial betrayal. You could have a spouse that's gambling that you don't know about. These are betrayals of all different sizes and shapes. Of course, we saw Kiss Cam, right? Everybody had this really strong reaction to that event at Coldplay Gate, as they're calling it now. And as Amy is saying, what I think, and this is so true, there's a lot of people out there that felt vindicated. The jumbotron moment that we find out these awful things, and everybody tries to shut it down, and it's embarrassing and it's terrible. But this, I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of people out there who've felt these feelings are like, yeah, that I get that. I really get that. So all of this is just fascinating, human, so human, right?
Yeah, we haven't talked about the funny memes out there.
Oh, yeah, we got to do that.
Has been a lot. A
Oh
lot
my
of
gosh. Okay. What's your favorite funny meme about the Kiss Cam
Okay, there
Coldplay
are
date?
so many, but it was Miss Piggy cheating on Kermit with Fozzie. I mean,
Oh,
we all grew up watching them because like that one just made me laugh out loud. I've got to admit it.
oh my God, that's great. Oh, okay, so I saw somebody put together like a Barbie, a Ken, and another. Oh gosh, stuff, and they were hugging, and then the Ken doll goes down. I mean, there was just some very funny like takeoffs of this particularly painful moment. Oh, that again, I feel very badly for the family, but
Yes.
what a what a thing. And I'm sure you've been contacted other than me, but other people are asking you about this.
Absolutely. And I posted things on social media and it's been interesting to see the reactions. I mean, many people say, "Yep." Actually, one woman said, "I found out when my husband went to a concert with a woman and his mother covered for him." She posted that in a comment. And then others said, "My jumbotron moment was this and my jumbotron moment was that."
Interesting.
And some women have had that and others maybe even went through the whole divorce process feeling like something was off, but I didn't have the smoking gun, like
Mhm.
evidence. And so, I think that the sisterhood of women feels good that this CEO's wife, perhaps at least knows the truth, as hard
Yeah.
as it is to take.
As hard and painful as it is. And you did say there's some fake statements going on out there. I haven't really tracked all of that, but that's another problem, right, for these
Yeah, I
people.
mean, there was a fake statement by him, by Andy Byron at first. He did step down from his position at the company on Saturday, but there's also been some by his wife that have circulated around, and all reports are saying they're not true. I mean, they're very well written and empowering for women, but I have not seen anyone confirm the validity of any of them. So I think, just know that when you're on social
Mhm.
media that these things are circulating.
Yeah, it's good to know. Just keep your mind open. I've got like a minute or so left, but what would it look like if they were to get divorced? Because we had a little short discussion before this got going on. What's Massachusetts like? And it's similar to Connecticut. Can you tell people what's going to happen if they go towards divorce?
Right. Well, we don't know if there was a prenup or postnup agreement, so that would, factor in. But Massachusetts, like Connecticut, is an equitable distribution state, which means that it's not necessarily exactly 50-50, but it's a fair distribution of assets and everything's on the table. There's no distinction between private property and marital property, whereas other states, there's a handful of states in the US, like Texas and California, that do things differently. They separate that. So it's not necessarily the case. So, there have been reports that, Economic Times said that he's worth between 20 and $70 million. We don't know for sure, but, people are speculating that she will do okay.
She'll do okay.
Sadly, I coach some women who don't do okay, and it's
Mhm.
and it's financially devastating. So, not that
Do
money.
you think the Kiss Cam situation, the Jumbotron, will impact the financial distribution of this divorce?
Good question. So, Massachusetts is a no fault state, but you can also file for fault divorce in Massachusetts,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So she and her attorney can claim there is fault. That's up to a judge to decide, really, if that affects any of the distribution. Again, it's a fair distribution, which is based on so many factors like her age, ability to work. By all reports, she does work for a school and have a job, her ability to sustain herself, any other factors in the marriage. So, you know, that if you are filing fault, you've got to prove a grounds like adultery or something similar like that. So
Wow. Well, that's a pretty dramatic version,
yeah,
right? I would expect she already has an attorney and they're probably working on that. Well, you never know. They might want to fix this marriage. Who knows?
right.
Oh my God. Very dramatic. So we have just a couple minutes left. Quick, just tell people one more time about your book, Framed, why
Sure.
it's important. It does fall into our discussion, which is about betrayal and gaslighting, etc. So this is about coercive control. So maybe a quick, just
Sure.
describe what that is.
Absolutely. So coercive control is a pattern of behavior where one person is exerting control over another, right? And that does not have to be physical. It can be intimidation, bullying, sexual coercion, all these things. The 22 stories of women in the book framed women in the family court underworld, and we put down here Know the Abuser's Playbook on purpose because there is a playbook that abusers do use in court. And this is an education for women going through the process, thinking about divorce, not to scare anyone, but you should know what you could face. Dr. Romney, who I think a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
know, is a narcissism expert, she wrote our prologue. Tina Swithin
She's
from
great.
One Mom's Battle wrote our epilogue. And there is another kind of betrayal we tackle and expose in the book, and that's institutional betrayal, is that our systems don't always recognize coercive control and have like a violent incident model for domestic abuse that, says, oh, if you don't have a bruise or a broken bone, are you really
It's
abused?
not.
So we're educating
Does
on that.
does Jennifer's Law, has that actually changed this in the state, or is just beginning to? I'm
Good
not
question. A
sure.
couple of years ago, I wrote an article for Ms. about that. Is it even affecting anything? And the reality is, not as much as we had hoped. It
Mm.
expanded the definition of domestic abuse in Connecticut to include coercive control, named for Jennifer Dulos and Jennifer Magnano, who was killed by her ex, sadly. But what we found, and what I found in my reporting, is that a lot of attorneys don't want to bring it up. They don't want to tick
Hmm.
off the judge. The judges don't understand it. There's a lot of education still in our state and other places. And so some of the women in court said, you know what? I said, the heck with it. I'm going to bring it up myself. And I brought
Right.
up coercive control. So it was in the record and Jennifer's Law. So I think we still have a ways to go on that, Trevor.
Amazing. Great conversation. We've got to wrap it up. This is Trevor Crow, Trevor and Friends. I've been on the phone with Amy Polacko, founder of Freedom Warrior Coaching, divorce coaching here in Connecticut. She's written a book called Framed, which we can find on
Yes, I
Amazon.
wrote it with Dr. Christine Cochiola. It's at narcfreepress.com. And you can find it online at any bookseller, Barnes& and Noble, Amazon, etc.
Great. Okay, we'll be right back. This is WGCH 1490 AM, WGCH.com. Stay tuned. We've got Attorney General William Tong coming on the show.